Welcome in. It is Friday, January 30th, a big day for me. We'll find out why. I got my pal JonnyDel on the show. He's at the Senior Bowl, so he'll go over what he looks for, what players you need to watch out for. We'll find a way to make fun of the Eagles. It's not that hard. And we'll find out why Bill Belichick should be in the Hall of Fame. Sports, pop culture, everything in between, by idiots, for idiots.
This is Sports Idiot Nation.
Sports, comedy, pop culture, and everything in between. Welcome back, sinners. This is Season 2 of Sports Idiot Nation.
Welcome in. It is a Friday, and Dolph, it is my birthday. And so I wanted to bring in my pal JonnyDel from the JonnyDel Football Academy podcast, the show in which I host with him. We have been doing, so on this program, Sports Idiot Nation, we're almost to 200 episodes, Johnny, but how many have you and I done?
I think our actual total is higher, but officially the total tonight I think is 185.
No, it's more than that, isn't it?
Or 285. I think it's 285.
Yeah. We're almost to the 300s.
Sorry.
Yeah.
It's early in the morning. Give me a break.
Time flies when you hang with me, right? Is that it?
It's 281. 281. That was the show we did last night on my channel.
Yeah. Okay. So, yes, let's talk a little bit about your channel. I know Sports Idiot Nation is not based in the Bay Area, so I get that not everyone is a Niners fan, but Johnny and I are, and so we host a 49ers podcast, and then Johnny puts, just great stuff. Just if you're a football fan, you got to check out the website and his channel. If you are a 49ers fan, then obviously you need to. But the reason why I have him on today is because he is at the Senior Bowl. This is not his studio. This is a hotel. He is literally at the Senior Bowl right now. And so we're going to get a breakdown of players that he's met with and talked to. Show us your notes real quick. You got him handy there?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of reflects a little wildly.
No, there you
but,
go. You can see it.
Yeah,
So
I have different days. I wrote in blue on the first day. I got a whole bunch of notes here. I mean, you can't see the pages very well.
but
But
that's a
blue
ton of stuff.
it was the first day. Red was the second day. Black was the third day. So I would know which are which. Lots of notes about offensive and defensive line on this. Both teams, American and National.
So, okay, break down the Senior Bowl and how it's set up. You said the American and National, all that, where it is. Where are you?
So I'm in Mobile, Alabama, and it's nice because I live in Alabama, so it's within driving distance for me. A lot of people fly in. I will say the Senior Bowl has, for a number of years, been one of the most welcoming events that the NFL does, as far as or even I guess para NFL, working with independent creators. You know, you don't have to be the ABC News to come in and get credentialed to be here. They treat almost everybody very similarly. We all check in at the same locations. Like I was checking into the stadium on Tuesday for the first practices, and in front of me there was a whole crew from ESPN. It's one of their morning shows. That whole crew was here, and they were checking in, and they had issues getting their credential passes because somebody didn't fill out a form for one of their guys, and so they're waiting on the side. Take 10 minutes, I walk up. 30 seconds later, I got my pass, and I'm headed on in, and I get to go down on the field after practices and see players if I want. Go to the media day on Wednesday morning is what they did. You go there and there's different radio shows. Some of the big time podcasters and news organizations are there set up, but you just have to reserve a booth. I didn't reserve that because I don't have a big radio show that I was doing during the day. But you go through this like long hallway where we passed all the teams where their meeting rooms were. They had their doors open. You could see right in, and they're in there going through film with different players. And we went down the escalator and into a big ballroom that was had the podiums and the players down there, and there's people from all sorts of independent organizations, news organizations. The guy that was behind me on the escalator was from the Tampa Bay Sun, I think was the publishing house he was with. So they're extremely welcoming of media of all kinds because it helps the NFL, it helps the Senior Bowl, and when they say the draft starts in Mobile, it's not just a tagline. This is truly, I think, the premier evaluation location and event for players going to the NFL. You're usually not going to get the top 15, maybe even the top 20 talent. Last year there was some top 20 talent that was here, but you're going to get an incredibly loaded area of the 20 to 25 to 150 range. There's very few players that are going to be going beyond 150 in this draft. So what it does is there's sometimes evaluators say, well, you can watch like teams from the SEC, and the SEC is so strong, it's easier to evaluate because you get to see them versus other good players. And so it's easier to say, if it's a small school guy and he dominates versus, Division II athletes, it's hard to tell, can that translate to the next level? What about when they start facing tackles that have arms that are 3 inches longer, sort of a thing? When you get to the Senior Bowl, everybody's been playing in college for 4 years. They've all got talent. They've all got experience. So when you can show up here and show you can play, it really does mean something. And I want to say last year it was something like over 60% of the top 100 players came from the Senior Bowl. There notably, us 49ers, we know of different times we've had a number of players that were Senior Bowl guys. They look at Brock Purdy, their franchise quarterback, infamously picked last in the draft. He came here to Mobile and played in the Senior Bowl and showed something. Deebo Samuel, infamously a second-round pick for the 49ers that Kyle Shanahan fell in love with at the Senior Bowl. Ricky Pearsall was their first-round pick. He was from the Senior Bowl. Dominic Puni, he was drafted. He was from the Senior Bowl. Cam Latu was here. He was from the Senior Bowl. That one didn't work out, but he was here at the Senior Bowl. Darrell Luter was a small school kid that's been their primary number 3 corner for most of the last 2 years. He was drafted because of what he showed here at the Senior Bowl because he's from Alabama State University, which is where the Senior Bowl's held, and he was allowed to participate in the Senior Bowl. He got an invite. So it's an incredible event and evaluation tool for teams, media, and everything.
So another stat here, you mentioned this to me a couple days ago. I forget it. What percentage of seniors at the Senior Bowl get drafted? What was that? You remember you telling me that?
Oh, it escapes my mind right now. It's an incredibly high percentage.
It's like 80%.
I think it's higher than that. I don't want to say something that's necessarily wrong, but it's an incredibly high percentage of players that show up at the Senior Bowl do end up getting drafted.
So, what were some of the things? I want to shift to some food. We'll get back to the players. So, because on this show we talk about everything, and I want to hear what are some of the good eats as you meet up with people, because this is not your first, as they say, shindig. So we're in the South, so we have to call it a shindig. So
Yeah.
it's not your first rodeo, it's not your first time, it's not your first shindig. You're meeting up with people that you've been with before. What are some of the go-to spots when you're at the Senior Bowl? What have you eaten?
So I didn't get to make it to a number of my go-to spots. Normally I go to the Original Oyster House here in Mobile. It's incredible seafood. Haven't made it there. Mainly I'm staying on a different side of Mobile than I normally do because
Oh,
just the way that the hotel's worked out this time. So I'm a lot closer to the stadium than I normally am. Um, Ended up going to a seafood place that I thought was local, and it turns out it's not. It's local from Florida. And our waitress was very candid and was like, "Yeah, our seafood is fresh from Florida," and
were you like,
and not like,
oh,
yeah. I was like, "Oh, okay." I mean, she was a doll. But she was way too honest about everything. She came up at the end because I was with a guy from the Houston Texans, a content creator, great guy, Garrett, and he she's sitting there. She's like, before you leave, you need to take him to some real seafood. And I'm like, this place is literally, it's called the Bonefish Grill. Like
Yeah.
it's a seafood restaurant. And I'm like, okay. We didn't make it to that. I normally go to a place called Meat Boss. It's an incredible barbecue joint down here. If you want to see where it is, just Google them. They were on Diners, Drives, and Dives. So you can see Guy Fieri came here. Now we didn't go there because Guy Fieri had gone there. We actually started coming here before they were on Triple D. And so we were here first. It was actually off the recommendation of a local that I had run into here that was like from my hometown area, which is wild. But and it was off of his recommendation, and it just was awesome. I went there with Wayne Breezy, the Wayne Breezy, a few years ago. We went there last year with a couple people. I didn't make it this year because I was doing a show yesterday with Rob Guerrera on the Gold Standard podcast, and it was during the time because they changed the practice schedule this year. Normally it's earlier, and we could go to the Meat Boss after practice. Well, literally practice ends at 6, and the Meat Boss closes at 6. So I didn't make it there this year, but Steph and Wayne did, and they were actually in line right in front of Kowefi, the GM of the Vikings. They were at
Okay.
the Meat Boss. He was standing right behind them.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's a lot of people from the Senior Bowl end up there at the Meat Boss because it's a great barbecue joint.
Yeah.
So this year, though, I went to the Mediterranean Sandwich Company, I think. It's a more of a local chain. The local chain. They have 3 locations in the Mobile area. So it was a gyro and shawarma place, real good. So
Love it.
tonight I went to a sushi place, and they were playing a jazz instrumental saxophone lead version of Barbie Girl. That was fascinating.
Because that's, yeah, what you do. Normal. All
Yeah.
right. So I can't take it much longer. I need to make fun of the Philadelphia Eagles. We'll get back to some more Senior Bowl stuff, but we do have some news in the NFL to get through. Miles and I on Wednesday's show talked about, at that point, was kind of breaking news about Bill Belichick. I'll get your thoughts there in a second, but let's go over what just happened like last night. Basically, the Eagles finally get their guy to call plays. What's your take on that?
My take is that for some reason there was a lot of guys who weren't interested in that job. I don't know
That's what I
why.
was thinking. That's what I was thinking.
You know, now I was razzing an Eagles content creator who was at the Senior Bowl with us the last couple days about it because I was like, okay, explain this to me. Why
You have a Super
does
Bowl
Nick
MVP
Sirianni?
quarterback. You have,
Well,
I mean,
you have Nick Sirianni, who was Frank Reich's offensive coordinator. He was the offensive coordinator at the Colts. His quarterbacks coach and wide receivers coach was Petula. Okay, so Petula worked under him when Sirianni was offensive coordinator. Why was Petula then fired here this year when you would think in theory what's happening is that Sirianni, being the offensive coordinator, bringing in one of his former under coaches, would be the guy really in charge of the offense. I mean, that would be like Kyle Shanahan having Mike McDaniel with him for so long when he was with the Browns and then he was with the Falcons and then coming to the 49ers, the 49ers offense being bad, and then him firing Mike McDaniel. That wouldn't make a lot of sense. So what does Nick Sirianni do? We don't know. We actually don't know what Nick Sirianni does. And so them bringing in Sean Mannion, look, they have no system stability there, which is weird when your head coach was an offensive coordinator because you have Kellen Moore, who his system was different than Petula's, because it was basically Frank Reich's system, right? So you have a change there, and now you're going to this more Shanahan McVay wide zone West Coast hybrid thing that's coming in. So I don't know. This feels like grasping at straws, and it feels like trying to find a coordinator that is not going to ask Jalen Hurts to be a pocket quarterback. That's really what it feels like.
it's so crazy that the guys who would not line up to call plays for Saquon Barkley and a Super Bowl MVP quarterback, an offensive
And
line that
having
is above
Devontae Smith
average.
and having Devontae Smith and having AJ Brown there. I mean, this sounds extremely odd that you had to go this deep in somewhere to try and find somebody to coordinate your offense.
What did you think of what's going on in Cleveland?
Um, I think I think Jim Schwartz could be a top candidate in San Francisco.
That's the Niner fan coming out, right? I agree,
Look,
and
it
I'm
just is.
excited.
It just is.
But now, see, here's what's crazy about the jobs that are open. I want to ask you about this. So, how would you like to be in the running for a job in which you have to play Jim Harbaugh twice, Sean Payton twice, and Andy Reid twice? Or I'll do you one better: Kyle Shanahan twice, McVay twice, or Super Bowl probably champion Mike McDonald twice. Like the Cardinals and the Raiders have to be in the worst positions, and the guys who they want to take a look at, who they have already interviewed, both of them, they can't hire until the Super Bowl, which we are over a week away from. It's like those teams are in shambles when it comes to figuring out their coach.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the plan. I
To
think
be in
they've both
shambles,
zeroed
that's
in.
the plan.
Well, no, I mean, I just kind of like the 49ers, they were clearly holding out for Kyle Shanahan, during the Super time where the
10 years
Falcons were
ago.
going into the Super Bowl.
About 10 years ago.
So, yeah, almost 10 years ago. It was 9 years ago, so they were clearly holding out for him. It feels like the Raiders are clearly holding out for Kubiak. I think that's who they want. That's who they've targeted. I think they want that a system an offensive system that they believe in to be there. And I could almost guarantee you Tom Brady is pressing the button real hard on that.
Yeah.
See what Tom's saying is, look, and here's the non-Tom analyst side of it.
Yeah.
Tom is saying, look, I've known that Sam Darnold is not this kind of quarterback for a long time. And if Kubiak has done what he's done with Sam Darnold there, we need that guy here
For
in Las
Fernando
Vegas
Mendoza.
for Fernando, right? Because Mendoza and him would be an instant turnaround. We have 10 times better quarterback play. I guarantee you that's what Tom is saying. That Tom can sit here on the broadcast and talk about, how great and talk
Sam
up Sam
Darnold
Darnold
is.
all he
Yeah,
wants.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I guarantee you, if Tom came out of retirement yesterday or tomorrow and offered the Seahawks his services and they said, no, thank you, we're going to stick with Sam Darnold, you would have a very similar radio or podcast
You
excerpt of what
sticking with
you had
that
heard several years.
MFR? Yeah.
Right. It would be very similar.
Yeah.
So,
That was funny.
he's looking at that, and so I think they've really clued in on Kubiak. He's their guy. They're going to throw everything they can at him.
Yeah, I don't disagree at
The
all. It's
Cardinals, though,
just
I don't know what they're going to do
they're in
because
shambles.
they're in shambles. Michael Bidwell is one of the worst owners in the league. I will say kudos to him for at least firing Jonathan Gannon because he was still paying their previous head coach. So like he's now paying two former head coaches. He's doing the Jed York treatment. And at least good
For
on
the
him for
Raiders.
recognizing they needed to make a change. So they've gone about that. I just don't know, who are you going to hire at this point? Like, most of the quality candidates are not available. I guess you could pull a Steelers and pull a candidate that everybody has figured is pretty washed at this point, but okay.
Yeah. That was weird to see that press conference. Like he's from Pittsburgh. I get it. It's a good story, but he's already older at this point than the oldest Steelers coach ever. He's already
Yeah.
day one. So we'll see. And then of
Well,
course
I think the Steelers have for the first time uh, have very short turnover with their head coach position. I don't see him lasting more than 3 years.
yeah, well, he'll age out. Yeah, me and Miles gave the over. I'll give this to you real quick. Me and Miles did an over under on wins for Mike McCarthy, and we set it at 19. Are you going under or over?
Before he's gone, I'm gonna go under. Well, and here's the thing. But here's the thing
That is
is,
crazy. And I don't disagree, but
oh, excuse me, sorry.
that's
Well,
crazy.
here's the problem is that what the what the Steelers really need is they needed to go with a young coach that they were going to commit to, like they do,
Yeah.
and be upfront about everything and say we have got to reshape our roster. We've got to reshape a lot of things
But
here,
they won't
and
admit that. They won't.
they should go into that.
They're
They
too proud.
should clear house. They should clear out a lot of their old contracts, their older players, and suck for at least a year.
Yeah.
See, this is what they needed to do, and Mike Tomlin had no interest in it. That's why Mike Tomlin won't be coaching anywhere because the Steelers don't want to give him up as a coach because they're holding his contract rights. So Tomlin doesn't want to suck because he has never had a losing season. And I know people will start
Ever.
to make fun of that, like, well, he's just been mediocre forever. Look, the
No.
fact is
Winning is tough.
that is a title that no other coach has.
Yeah, for that his
And so
longevity. Yeah.
and so, like, as competitive as he is, I mean, you can tell that man is an absolute competitor. He was not going to just sacrifice that title for this team. Like he wasn't doing it because that's what they need to do. They need to suck. They need to be a top 3 pick team. Reload their roster with a lot of young talent. Find an answer for the quarterback situation. And he doesn't have any interest in doing that. He's like, I'm going to walk away. Now they didn't want to give up his contract rights. They don't want to see him just go coach the Ravens and turn the Ravens around.
Right.
They had no interest in that. So they're holding on to his contract rights. He's waiting until they've signed a coach. He has a non-compete clause, so he's going to go this year in the media, and then next year somebody's going to trade for him. It's going to be the Sean Payton treatment, right? That's what happened with Sean Payton. Sean Payton didn't want to suck with the Saints because they were in cap hell. He didn't want to do that. He went into media because he wanted to go to the Chargers. The Chargers said that they were going to keep Brandon Staley, and so he didn't have anybody that was going to trade with the Saints for his contract, right? So he went into media for a year and then took the Broncos job when the Broncos did trade a pick to the Saints for Sean Payton's contract rights. That's what's going to happen here with Mike Tomlin. I mean, it's just they need to suck. And what this move tells me is that they're trying to convince Rodgers to come back for a year because they don't have a high enough pick to answer quarterback this year. And so they're trying to convince Rodgers to come back for another year and give it another run. They don't have the roster to give it another run. Their roster is aging. They don't have the young talent to give it to reload this thing quickly and try and get over the hump on anything, or just make it to the playoffs and see what happens. That's what you've been doing for a long time, and you get bounced every year in the first round because you don't have a team that can compete with the best teams in the league.
Yeah. All right, let's switch back to the Senior Bowl. A reminder to follow us wherever you get your social media. Remember to get cool, quirky stuff like this very mug that I drink out of every day.
Super cool. I'm so jealous of that mug.
Click the link to get more stuff like that. It's hoodie season. Grab your hoodies. All right, give me some things that you look for, Johnny, at the Senior Bowl as far as the trenches are concerned. There are some players that you know of. There are some players that you don't know of. That's what's exciting about going, I'm sure. So what are some names that you found, and what do you look for when you're looking for the trenches?
So, I mean, first thing you want to look for is when you watch the one-on-one drills, you have to remember in many of them, these defensive linemen are just teeing off on the offensive lineman. So if an offensive lineman wins, that's a huge plus for them. Like that automatically, because they're winning against an advantage, a clear advantage that the defensive line has, because these guys line up and they do one-on-one drills, pass rushing drills. And, rarely do these things happen in open space like this, but there are moments in games when that happens. So this is like putting the offensive lineman in the worst case scenario. Also, on the defensive line, if you register no wins, that's really telling, and that's not a good sign. You want to see how tough guys compete. How do they go about winning? Is it trying to win to a certain landmark, or is it just like I made it past this guy? Okay, yeah, I would never have hit the quarterback. I would have run into a center, or I would have gone 10 yards past the quarterback before I made it in. Those sorts of wins aren't quality wins for me. I'm looking for quality wins, quality moments. You're looking for Like there was a kid, a tackle. Trying to remember where he was from for a sec. Um, he's really tall, really long, and his frame was causing an incredible amount of issues for guys coming against him because he was so long and tall with leverage that when they'd come around the corner, he could grab him and get his hands on him before they could. And it was, I mean, it was like guys would hit in mud. They'd be coming around, hitting that, trying to get around the hump with speed, transition into a power rush, and it was just like, because they would just grab him, and they couldn't get their hands on him, and he would absorb him in, and then tuck him in close, and they'd be sitting there trying to go anywhere, and they can't. Big monster of a kid, really showed a lot of upside there, but I will say that the guy who has become, I think, everybody's draft crush coming away from this Senior Bowl is Jennings Dunker, tackle from Iowa. The big question about him coming in was his arm length for a tackle, but he's also played guard here. At the media day, we talked to him, and he said that he's been even practicing snapping to potentially play center. So he believes he can play anywhere on the offensive line.
Wow.
And he is an aura. He looks like a kid who just came out of the Appalachian Trail from wrestling a bear and came down. He's got a red mullet that comes down past his shoulders, big
Naturally.
red mustache, super thick legs. I mean, constantly bellies out, legs are the shorts are looking at the media day. Like all the other players were mostly looking pretty composed. He's in there in these gym shorts that are clearly too small for his legs. In his hoodie, I got a great picture of him from a little bit away after he stepped down from the podium. But he's become everybody's draft crush. He was projected to be a mid-second, I think, coming down here, and I would be surprised if he's around in the second round at this point. Like he's most likely a first round pick now. He has absolutely shown out. I would say TJ Parker, defensive end from Clemson, came down here. He was maybe early second when he came down, and I would say he's probably in the 20 to 30 range right now in the draft because he really showed out here. And he showed traits. It's not just winning in the one-on-ones, it's winning with certain traits. That first step, long arm. So he would set these tackles up. He'd attack their outside shoulder. He'd get him moving back, and then he would hit that inside shoulder with that long arm because he's got a great length. And they would immediately just get knocked back. And it was like they could know it was coming, and he would still beat him. And so, that's what you like to see day after day after day as these guys are adjusting to each other. Can these guys still win? And TJ Parker was still beating everybody down here. Huge thing. You like to see team drills. You want to see how do offensive linemen work combo blocks and up to the second level. It's one thing to beat a guy in a one-on-one rep when you're doing your drill. It's another thing when you have to take that guy on as he's reacted to the run and he's trying to cross your face. So seeing all that stuff, watching the wide receiver drills, I don't expect the defensive backs to win a lot on the one-on-one DB drills. Now, DB drills are a little bit different than like linebackers on running backs. That's a situation that very few linebackers can pull off. I will say there's one kid, Kyle Lewis from Arkansas or Pitt. I think he's Pitt. I gotta check my notes just because there's so many kids down here.
Right.
That he absolutely has shown up. Kyle Lewis from Pittsburgh, linebacker, kid. He's probably the best coverage linebacker in the draft. I mean, he was beating running backs in the one-on-one drills, which they are not supposed to win. Like that's not normal. It's very rare that linebackers win on those drills, and he actually had a pick six on one. He nearly had a second one. He in the team drills had several passes defended. He was getting in throwing lanes. He was incredibly fast on the run fits. This kid really came in and showed his mettle and improved his draft stock. What really stands out through the Senior Bowl is that there's a lot of good players that will be there between 25 and 150. Like there's going to be a lot of good players in those areas. I think so many times we there's so much pomp and circumstance and buzz and hype around the first round. We think the first round is where you really get the stars. And I'll say most teams, most of the time, the first round is 50-50 on your hit rate. Okay. And we have a lot of stars in this league that didn't come out of the first round. There's a lot of stars that are second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, even seventh rounders.
Yeah.
And so, we hyper focus in on the first round. I think that's where all the premium talent is. I'll tell you, there are guys that are going in the third round who may not be the all around premium talent, but might be, have 70% of the skills. Like they can't do 5 things really, really like at a super top tier level, but they can do 3 things at a super top tier level. And so it's about, can you get that guy into that role? And that's where the questions come in. But that doesn't mean that they can't be an extremely good player. And so that's what the Senior Bowl always reminds me of every year. And it's why I have pages that are just littered with notes, because there's a lot of good players that will come out in the draft.
So I know it's Friday morning. You're getting ready to leave. I'm going to get you out of here on this. You take as long as you want with it. Is Bill Belichick a first ballot Hall of Famer if you were a voter? Keep in mind Spygate and all that stuff.
Yes.
So you are for
I mean,
and that's our show.
Yeah,
that's it.
Well, no, so the reason I put it that way, because you specifically said take as much time as you want, because that should be all the time it takes to explain that one. When a coach has 8 Super Bowl rings, 6 as a head coach, I'm sorry, there was the answers I've seen from some of the people who didn't vote for him are ridiculous. Which was basically, well, there's a backlog of people who are very deserving. Okay, then here's what you need to do. And it's high time you do this. You have a coach category. It was specifically a coach category. That's going to be for head coaches and assistant coaches. Because there are some assistant coaches who deserve to be in the Hall of Fame.
Dick LeBeau.
Like papers. Like Dick LeBeau.
Yeah.
Like Bob McKittrick. Like Alex Gibbs. These guys deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. Vic Fangio.
I was going to say Vic Fangio.
Retires,
yeah.
The influence these guys had on the game, they deserve to be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
You can't make an argument you can't make an argument that just because they weren't a head coach that they didn't have an impact. We're talking about some of the people that have influenced the NFL and have revolutionized the way that the game was played. And so the idea that they aren't in just because they aren't a head coach, you need to have a coach-specific category. I don't think you should have a coach and assistant coach category. You have a coach category because what'll happen is there isn't a list of 50 guys long of assistants that necessarily should be in the Hall of Fame, but there's enough that where you need to have a way to clear that log. And so maybe it's every other year you induct a coach. And that's a separate category, because the issue they had was that there's players like Roger Craig, for example, who has been deserving of the Hall of Fame for a long time, and they're like, it's time he get in. And so, yes, I'm sorry that Bill is there, but Roger's been in line for a long time, and every year we put somebody else in front of him. And so I get that reasoning, but Bill Belichick should not have to wait. Bill Walsh did wait, but Bill only won 3 Super Bowls. And we say only, and it was one of the greatest head coaching careers we'd ever seen.
Yeah.
He revolutionized football. Bill Belichick has won 6 as a head coach. He won 2 as a coordinator, and he changed the way that teams play defense. What him and Nick Saban did with the Browns changed the way that the NFL has played defense for 30 years. So, it's ridiculous.
We'll see what the aftermath comes, because there's so many people who now disrespect the Hall of Fame. So we'll see it plays out. It's still fresh. Speaking of fresh, if you want to feel cool and fresh, you will follow Sports Idiot Nation wherever you get your social media. Remember, new episodes of Sports Idiot Nation come to you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, which means we will see you Monday.